Picture this. It's March 2024, and somewhere beneath the icy waters of the North Atlantic, the British nuclear submarine HMS Vengeance has been underwater for an incredible 201 days straight. That's nearly 7 months without seeing sunlight, breathing fresh air, or stepping on solid ground. Inside this steel tube, 130 brave souls are living, working, and surviving in one of the most challenging environments on Earth. But how do they do it? How do these modern warriors manage to sleep in spaces smaller than your bedroom closet, eat fresh meals months into their mission, and maintain their sanity while surrounded by nothing but endless ocean? The answers will shock you and give you a whole new appreciation for the incredible men and women who defend our freedoms beneath the waves. What you're about to discover goes far beyond what most people imagine about submarine life. We're talking about engineering marvels that turn seawater into drinking water, oxygen generation systems that literally split water molecules, and food storage techniques so advanced that crews can enjoy ice cream 200 feet underwater. But perhaps most amazing of all, we'll uncover the unwritten rules and brotherhood that keeps these warriors mentally strong during months of isolation. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why submarine service is considered one of the most elite assignments in the entire military, and why these underwater guardians deserve our deepest respect and admiration. If you're proud of our submarine forces and want to honor their service, type "proud" in the comments below. Now, let's dive deep into this incredible world that few civilians ever get to see. The Sleeping Challenge: making a coffin feel like home. Imagine trying to sleep in a space that's literally smaller than most people's walk-in closets. We're talking about bunks that measure just 74 inches long by 25 inches wide, with only 18 inches of headroom above you. To put that in perspective, that's about as roomy as lying inside a large refrigerator. But here's where it gets even more challenging. On Virginia-class submarines like the USS Missouri, there are only 94 bunks for 135 crew members. This means that roughly 40 sailors don't even have their own bed. Instead, they participate in what's called hot bunking or hot racking, a practice where multiple sailors share the same bunk in rotation. Picture this. You finish your 6-hour watch shift, exhausted and ready to collapse. You head to your assigned bunk, but it's still warm from the sailor who just got up to start his shift. You literally climb into a bed that someone else has been sleeping in just minutes before. The sheets might still hold the warmth from their body, and you have to hope they followed proper hygiene protocols. This isn't just uncomfortable. It's a test of mental toughness that most of us can't even imagine. Yet these incredible sailors adapt to it as just another part of serving their country underwater. The sleeping arrangement gets even more complex when you consider the submarine's unique schedule. Traditional submarines operate on an 18-hour day cycle, split into 3 6-hour shifts. So while the rest of the world follows a 24-hour routine, these underwater warriors live in a completely different time zone. You work for 6 hours, then you have 12 hours for maintenance, training, eating, and sleeping. But here's something remarkable that happened in recent years. The Navy recognized the strain this unusual schedule placed on their sailors and began transitioning to a more natural 24-hour cycle. Now, on newer deployments, crews work 8-hour shifts with 16 hours between watches. This change has dramatically improved sleep quality and overall crew performance. What's truly impressive is how these sailors maintain their bunks. Each person gets a briefcase-sized locker for their personal belongings. That's it. Everything you own for 3 months has to fit in a space smaller than most airplane carry-on bags. Yet somehow, these organized warriors make it work. The bunks themselves are stacked 3 high, and each one has a curtain for privacy. It's the only personal space these sailors get during their entire deployment. Inside this tiny cocoon, they read letters from home, look at family photos, and find moments of peace in an environment that never truly sleeps. But here's what civilians don't realize. Sleeping on a submarine isn't just about physical comfort. The constant hum of machinery, the occasional sonar pings, and the subtle movements of the vessel become a lullaby that experienced submariners actually find comforting. Many veterans report that they sleep better underwater than they do on land, because the familiar sounds and gentle rocking motion create a sense of security. The food miracle: feeding an army beneath the waves. Now, let's talk about one of the most impressive logistical achievements in modern military operations: feeding 130 people for 90 days without a single grocery store run. The numbers alone will blow your mind. Before a submarine leaves port, they load approximately 15,000 pounds of food. That's 160 pounds of food per sailor for the entire patrol. To put this in perspective, that's like loading 3 full-size pickup trucks worth of groceries for a 3-month camping trip. But here's where it gets really interesting. Space is so precious on a submarine that food gets stored everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. Sailors literally walk on top of canned goods for the first few weeks of deployment. They sleep on boxes of food covered with cardboard. Some shower stalls get converted into temporary food storage areas. The USS Missouri's crew discovered just how creative they had to get with food storage. Cans and cases were stacked in sleeping areas until the crew ate their way down to normal floor level. It's like an edible countdown calendar, where the path to your bunk gradually clears as the mission progresses. Fresh food is treated like gold on these underwater missions. Fruits, vegetables, milk, and bread typically last about 2 weeks if they're lucky. After that, it's all canned, dried, and frozen foods for the remaining 2.5 months. Yet somehow, submarine cooks, who are considered among the elite in the entire Navy, manage to create meals that boost morale and keep the crew fighting fit. These culinary artists face challenges that no restaurant chef could imagine. They're cooking in a galley smaller than most home kitchens, but they're feeding more people than many restaurants serve in a day. They can't use open flames because of safety concerns, so everything is prepared using industrial-grade convection ovens, high-efficiency induction cookers, and pressure-controlled deep fryers. The meal schedule itself is designed for both nutrition and morale. Submarines serve 4 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and midnight rations. The midnight meal isn't just a snack, it's a full meal designed to keep the night shift properly fueled. Here's something that showcases the Navy's attention to detail. They rotate the meal schedule every few days so that different shift workers don't get stuck eating the same type of meal every day. Imagine if the night shift always had to eat breakfast food at midnight, or if the morning crew always got stuck with dinner leftovers. This simple rotation keeps everyone's spirits up. But let me share some specific numbers that show just how much food we're talking about. One Virginia-class submarine carries 1,500 pounds of ribeye beef, 1,000 pounds of ground beef, 900 pounds of chicken breast, 300 pounds of bacon, 5,500 pounds of flour, 2,500 pounds of sugar, and more than 1,000 pounds of coffee. That coffee number tells you something important about submarine life. These sailors need their caffeine to stay alert during those critical watch periods. The most impressive part? After 110 days at sea, one submarine crew reported being down to just 1 canned ham, a large supply of white cake mix, and some dehydrated fruits and vegetables. They had calculated their food consumption so precisely that they used almost every pound they brought aboard. And here's something that'll make you smile. Submarines are famous throughout the Navy for having the best food. Ice cream is served regularly. Desserts are a standard part of every meal, and special occasion meals rival what you'd find at a good restaurant. It's the Navy's way of acknowledging that these sailors are making extraordinary sacrifices, and they deserve extraordinary treatment in return. The life support. Miracle. Breathing and drinking underwater. Now we come to perhaps the most mind-blowing aspect of submarine operations. How these underwater fortresses create the basic necessities of life from nothing but seawater and electricity. Let's start with oxygen, since that's pretty important for staying alive. Modern nuclear submarines use a process called electrolysis to literally split seawater into hydrogen and oxygen. Here's how this miracle works. They take ordinary seawater, run powerful electrical current through it, using sophisticated proton exchange membrane cells, and separate the water molecules into their basic components. The hydrogen gets safely vented overboard, and the oxygen gets stored in tanks for the crew to breathe. The scale of this operation is staggering. A typical adult consumes about 600 liters of oxygen per day just for basic survival. Multiply that by 130 crew members, and you're talking about 78,000 liters of oxygen needed daily. The submarine's electrolytic oxygen generators can produce this amount continuously, as long as they have electrical power and seawater, both of which are unlimited on a nuclear submarine. But oxygen generation is just the beginning. The crew also needs fresh water for drinking, cooking, and personal hygiene. Remember, they're surrounded by water, but it's all salt water that would dehydrate and eventually kill them if they drank it. The solution is an engineering marvel called a distillation plant. This system can produce between 10,000 and 40,000 gallons of fresh water per day. That's enough to supply a small town. The process involves heating seawater to create steam, then cooling that steam back into pure water, leaving all the salt behind. Most of this water actually goes to cooling the submarine's electronic equipment, but plenty remains for the crew's needs. Think about that for a moment. These submarines are completely self-sufficient for the most basic needs of human survival. They're like underwater space stations, creating their own atmosphere and water supply while traveling through one of the most hostile environments on Earth. But creating oxygen and water is only part of the challenge. They also have to remove the poison that the crew naturally produces just by breathing, carbon dioxide. As CO2 levels rise, the air becomes toxic and eventually deadly. Submarines handle this with chemical scrubbers that use compounds like soda lime, a mixture of sodium hydroxide and calcium hydroxide. These chemicals literally grab carbon dioxide molecules out of the air through chemical reactions and trap them safely. The submarine can then dispose of the captured CO2 by releasing it into the ocean when conditions permit. Modern submarines also have incredibly sophisticated atmospheric monitoring systems. These use mass spectrometry and infrared technology to constantly monitor the levels of oxygen, carbon dioxide, hydrogen, carbon monoxide, and even trace chemicals like refrigerants and solvents. The crew knows within seconds if anything in their air supply goes wrong. Here's something that shows just how advanced these systems have become. The atmospheric monitoring equipment has documented operational availability of over 99% after more than 5 million hours of operation. That's reliability that puts most home appliances to shame. Waste management, the unspoken challenge. Now let's discuss something that might not be glamorous, but it's absolutely critical for submarine operations: waste management. When you're sealed in a steel tube for 3 months with 130 other people, dealing with human waste isn't just about comfort, it's about survival. Modern submarines use vacuum toilet systems, similar to what you'd find on commercial aircraft, but much more sophisticated. When a sailor uses the restroom, waste goes first into a vacuum tank, then into a pressurized sanitary holding tank. The system is designed so that even when the main holding tank is being emptied, the toilets continue to function normally. This might seem like a minor detail, but it represents a huge improvement over older systems. On submarines from previous generations, using the toilet incorrectly could result in sewage backing up into the submarine, an obviously dangerous and morale-crushing situation. The holding tanks are emptied by pressurizing them with compressed air and blowing the contents overboard. This can only be done when the submarine is in international waters, at least 3 nautical miles from any shore, to comply with environmental regulations. Solid waste management is equally impressive. All dry waste gets compacted and placed in special perforated steel cans that are fabricated right on board the submarine. These cans are 28.5 inches long and 9 inches in diameter, with metal weights added to ensure they sink to the ocean floor. The cans are ejected through a trash disposal unit, essentially a torpedo tube designed specifically for garbage. The precision required for this system is remarkable. The submarine's crew has to calculate exactly how much waste they'll generate over a 90-day period and ensure they have enough storage capacity and disposal materials for the entire mission. But here's what really shows the attention to detail. Submarines pack out all their food packaging before leaving port. Cardboard boxes get unpacked at the dock and left behind to save space. Everything that comes aboard is planned to either be consumed, used up, or disposed of safely during the mission. The unwritten rules, brotherhood beneath the waves. What truly makes submarine life work isn't just the technology. It's the incredible culture and unwritten rules that these sailors develop to maintain their sanity and unit cohesion during months of isolation. First and most important, no politics. In a space where 130 people are living closer together than most families, discussing divisive political topics could destroy unit cohesion. So submariners simply don't do it. They focus on their mission, their shipmates, and their shared goal of returning home safely. Noise discipline is sacred. Someone is always sleeping on a submarine because of the shift rotations, so crew members never slam doors, speak loudly in sleeping areas, or make unnecessary noise. This consideration for others becomes second nature after just a few weeks underwater. Personal space awareness is crucial. The hallways are so narrow that sailors develop an almost choreographed way of moving past each other. They learn to duck, bend, and step aside in a fluid dance that prevents constant collisions in the tight spaces. Shower etiquette is strictly observed. Water is precious, even though the submarine can make its own, because using less water means running quieter pumps and maintaining better stealth. Most submariners limit showers to 3 to 5 minutes. Get wet, turn off the water, soap up, turn the water back on, and rinse off quickly. But perhaps most importantly, submariners develop an incredible sense of mutual respect and shared sacrifice. They understand that every person on that submarine is making the same sacrifices, facing the same challenges, and deserving of support. This creates a brotherhood that's difficult to find anywhere else in the military. The pride factor is enormous. Submarine service is entirely voluntary, and submariners know they're part of an elite community. Only about 1% of Navy personnel serve on submarines, and earning your Dolphins, the submarine warfare pin, is considered one of the highest honors in naval service. When things go wrong, heroes in the depths. Even with all this advanced technology and careful planning, submarines face dangers that test their crew's courage and skill in ways most of us can't imagine. Take the case of German submarine U-1206 on April 14, 1945, just 24 days before the end of World War II. This submarine was equipped with a new high-pressure toilet system that allowed waste disposal while running deep underwater. The system was so complex that only specially trained technicians were supposed to operate it. Captain Karl Adolf Schlitt decided to use the new toilet himself, but he wasn't properly trained on the complicated procedure. When he couldn't figure out the sequence of valves, he called for help from an engineer. In the confusion, they opened the wrong valve, flooding the toilet chamber with seawater and sewage. The water reached the submarine's batteries and created chlorine gas, a deadly poison that threatened to kill the entire crew. Schlitt had to make a desperate decision: surface the submarine in broad daylight to ventilate the toxic air, even though they were in waters patrolled by British aircraft. As soon as they surfaced, British planes spotted them and attacked. One crew member was killed, and the submarine was damaged beyond repair. Schlitt ordered the crew to abandon ship and scuttled the U-1206. 46 survivors, including the captain, were captured and became prisoners of war. This story illustrates both the incredible dangers submarine crews face and the split-second decisions that can mean the difference between life and death. It also shows why modern submarine systems are designed with multiple safety backups and why crew training is so intensive. Record-breaking endurance, pushing the limits. The ultimate test of submarine endurance came in March 2024, when HMS Vengeance of the Royal Navy spent an incredible 201 days underwater. That's nearly 7 months submerged, breaking previous records and proving that modern submarine technology has reached almost unimaginable levels of capability. To put this achievement in perspective, the crew spent more than half a year without seeing sunlight, breathing fresh air, or having any contact with the outside world except for brief, encrypted communications. They experienced no weather, no seasons, no day or night cycles, just the artificial environment of their underwater home. Most submarines are designed for 90 to 120-day patrols, carrying enough food for 3 to 4 months underwater. The fact that HMS Vengeance stayed down for 201 days required exceptional planning, crew endurance, and probably some very creative meal planning toward the end of the mission. The limiting factor for these extended missions isn't life support. The nuclear reactor can run for 25 years, and the submarine can make unlimited oxygen and fresh water. The limit is food storage. As one veteran submariner noted, after 110 days at sea, his crew was down to 1 canned ham, lots of white cake mix, and some dehydrated vegetables. American submarines regularly conduct patrols lasting 60 to 80 days, with some surveillance missions extending to 6 months. The USS Missouri during one deployment spent 163 out of 181 days underwater, showing just how capable these modern vessels have become. The human factor, mental strength underwater. What makes someone choose submarine duty? It takes a special kind of person to volunteer for months of confinement in a steel tube hundreds of feet underwater, surrounded by nuclear weapons and explosives, with the constant possibility of emergency situations that could prove fatal. Submariners develop mental toughness that's hard to find anywhere else. They learn to find entertainment and relaxation in the smallest things. The traditional submarine pastime is cribbage, a card game that's been popular on submarines for generations. Movie nights become major social events. Even simple things like making pizza, using armed forces recipe service instructions, become highlights of the deployment. The crew learns to live in a world where there's no privacy, no personal space, and no escape from your shipmates. Yet somehow, they develop the ability to give each other space even in the most crowded conditions. They learn when someone needs to be alone, even though being truly alone is impossible. Physical fitness becomes a challenge when your gym might be the torpedo room or a small exercise bike squeezed into a corner. Yet submariners maintain their physical conditioning through creative workouts and by helping each other stay motivated. The mental discipline required is extraordinary. These sailors know that a single mistake could doom the entire crew. Every valve, every switch, every procedure must be executed perfectly, every time. The pressure would crush most people, but submariners thrive on it. Modern marvels, technology that saves lives. Today's submarines represent some of the most advanced technology ever deployed by any military. The Virginia-class submarines use commercial off-the-shelf computer technology, which means they can upgrade their systems with the latest advances instead of being stuck with 10-year-old equipment. The control rooms look like something from a science fiction movie. Gone are the traditional periscopes and analog gauges. Everything is computerized, from navigation to weapon systems to life support monitoring. Multiple screens display everything from sonar images to engineering status to weather conditions on the surface. The submarines themselves are acoustic marvels. Every piece of equipment is designed and tested to minimize noise. Even the air pumps that eject torpedoes are individually tested and certified for their sound signature before installation. Because in submarine warfare, being quiet can mean the difference between completing your mission and being detected by enemy forces. Modern submarine hulls are designed to withstand crushing ocean pressure at depths that would destroy earlier vessels. The engineering tolerances are so precise that a submarine hull represents one of the most perfectly manufactured objects humans have ever created. The Elite Brotherhood. Earning your dolphins. Becoming a qualified submariner isn't easy. New crew members are called non-quals until they earn their submarine warfare qualification, the coveted dolphins pin that marks them as a true submariner. The qualification process is intense. Sailors must learn every system on the submarine, understand emergency procedures for every possible scenario, and demonstrate their ability to handle any situation that might arise. They're tested by experienced crew members who don't accept anything less than perfection. The dolphin's pin isn't just jewelry. It's a symbol that you've been accepted into one of the most elite communities in the military. Submariners trust their lives to every other person on that boat, and earning your dolphins means you've proven yourself worthy of that trust. This brotherhood extends far beyond active duty. Submarine veterans maintain connections that last their entire lives. They share experiences that civilians can't understand and challenges that create bonds stronger than family ties. Conclusion: honoring our underwater guardians. As we surface from this deep dive into submarine life, one thing becomes crystal clear. The men and women who serve on our submarines represent some of the finest examples of American courage, dedication, and technical excellence. These underwater warriors voluntarily leave behind everything most of us consider normal life: sunlight, fresh air, personal space, privacy, and contact with loved ones, to patrol the depths and protect our freedom. They do it for months at a time, in conditions that would challenge the strongest among us. From sleeping in spaces smaller than closets, to eating meals prepared in kitchens tinier than most people's bathrooms. From breathing artificially created air to drinking water made from the ocean around them, every aspect of their lives requires sacrifice and adaptation. Yet, they don't just survive, they excel. They maintain the most advanced military technology on Earth, execute complex missions with precision that allows no margin for error, and return home ready to do it all again. The next time you see our flag flying free, remember that part of that freedom is protected by submarines you'll never see, carrying crews whose names you'll never know, operating in depths where the rest of us could never survive. These are America's silent warriors, and they deserve our deepest respect, gratitude, and admiration. If this journey into the depths has given you a new appreciation for our submarine forces, show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing for more stories of American military excellence. These heroes' stories deserve to be told, and your support helps ensure they reach the audience they deserve. Stay proud, stay informed, and never forget the brave souls who guard our freedom from beneath the waves.